The dream about the electric father. The first thing she felt was no feeling at all. She was weightless, her body shed. She was aware of a dark atmosphere, a finite, coffin-like blackness that surrounded her. She understood that she was an observer. She realized that she was not alone in this box. There was a man with her. They were both suspended upside down, side by side. No wires, no hooks, no base supported them. They were static figures, pendant bodies with no free will, somehow fixed floating in a stagnant air. Now she perceived the man's sensations. She'd been granted access to his mind. The man alternated between periods of total quiescence and intense, jagged, shrieking jolts of pain. These spells of pain were erratic and varied in length of time and levels of agony. There were stratums of pain stacked on top of compounds of pain. They consumed him from the inside out and then back through the outside in. She understood that the man existed inside of the box for the sole purpose of this cycle. She did not know how the man had come to be in the box, nor how long he had been there. She sensed that if he had ever known, he had long forgotten. She noticed the black cloud of nothing in which they hung, slowly lightening to an eggplant purple. She watched it fade to charcoal, then gray smoke, a taupe mist, and finally she could see the world outside. It dawned on her that there were others. They were outside of the box. There was a woman out there. She carried a laundry basket past the box and into a kitchen. 2 very small children followed along in her wake. They all spoke to each other. She could hear the muffled conversation, but she could not make out the words. She knew a sudden keen envy as she saw them move freely about the living room. It occurred to her suddenly that the man was in a large, clear refrigerator box in their living room, like a display case. If you wanted to display a beloved family member who could not move or breathe or walk or live with you, a family member you needed to keep an eye on, a family member with which you could never interact. This was where they kept their electric father. She understood that the children did not know how long their father had been in the box. Did they have memories of him before he became an exhibit that sat next to the computer desk? She knew that they could not say. They were still too young to wonder about their father in this way, still young enough to imagine that other fathers were locked inside museum-like exhibition cases in other living rooms all over town. Soon they would begin to question, and soon the mother would need answers. The life of the family around the man was surprisingly normal. She could hear animated chatter and laughter from the children now seated at the breakfast table in the next room. She could see their smiles through the thick barrier of the cloudy Lexan. She could also see the mother standing at a counter, making lunches and hurrying the children along in their meal, reminding them to return permission slips and books and homework to backpacks. The mother radiated a buzzing energy that seemed routine, positive. Mornings were always a scrambled climb toward the summit of getting out of the house and along on their day. She had a slightly harassed air. She didn't seem overburdened by the children, by the tasks ahead of her, by the man inside of the box that was concussed with harrowing strikes of sizzling lightning day and night, night and day for all the world to see. She was just eternally distracted and exhausted, doing her best to carry on with the weight of the world that had been shifted solely, most unfairly, to her shoulders alone. She was trying to discern more detail about the woman, the children, the life outside, when the percussive pain came tearing through and the box clouded back into darkness, the small coffer becoming an opaque black-purple again. Thunderbolts of searing, burning pain lit up the man. Every hue in the spectrum was represented as the crackle and sputter of the currents raced through him. The memory of the family outside the box was immediately winked out, and all of life, everything except for the agonizing current, disappeared from this small, discrete world. And then suddenly the current was cut. The voltage dropped. And the father became aware that the sounds of life outside the box had stopped. The house was silent. The family had exited and were now gone about their day. Here was a different agony, far worse than galvanized torture.